I got
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Three Old Farts. My name's Chuck.
Go ahead, Bobby.
A young old fart and two real old farts.
I'm the oldest of the three old farts here, and the
I'm
ugliest
number
too.
2. I hope you get as old as you and older.
Well, how was your
Well,
birthday
thanks for
yesterday?
having me back on two old farts and making it three old farts.
Hey,
Yeah.
you never know.
That's right. So what's exciting with you guys? What's new? It's birthday, right, Chuck?
I am another year older.
Did you remember I was saying you happy birthday?
Yes, I remember. We were all at the restaurant together.
So how was your birthday? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I did. You were there. You should know.
Well, I was only there for part of the day. I don't know how the rest of the day was.
The other part of the day was just like I am now. I'm in my PJs. That's a good.
Yeah, that's a real good venue, Bobby. Have you been to Krause's restaurant in New Brunswick?
Yes, you kind of, it's pretty hard to hear.
Let me sound.
Just the part that you found them off completely.
I can hear him pretty good.
I couldn't.
Is that
So
okay?
that could just be neat.
Do you have headphones? Maybe plug them in. It might help you hear.
Well, I can hear you really good.
Oh, well, yeah, because I got a microphone like 5 inches from my face.
Me too. I have my camera hooked on mine too, so I don't want to move it.
So you might need to get a little closer to the camera so he can hear you better. Because us two are using microphones.
This is like when it's old.
Did you hear me, Dad?
I can hear you.
Did you hear me say you probably need to get closer to the computer so he can hear you better?
That's what I did. How big my face is? Yes, that's right.
Well, we'll make do.
And this is why we have tens of listeners, because this is probably like the crappiest podcast out there on the internet. The lowest budget, worst podcast ever.
Well, I'm about the worst, but we are the lowest budget. The only one with high-tech stuff there. Well, maybe Uncle Bobby. I don't know. I know I'm not.
Well, I have a different setup, but it's in the back room, unaccessible at this moment. That's where I do all my videos. And anymore, I've got a camera back there that's about a $4,000 camera for videos. I use my iPhone 15.
Okay.
Because the light, it's so easy to get the lighting. With the other one, I got to have like all these special lights and stuff, just to get the lighting. And on my phone, I just put it on there and the lighting's great. It just adjusts automatically.
With the new phones, with the technology and those things now, it's almost as good as those expensive cameras like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank goodness that camera, I didn't buy it. One of our partners did. And he goes, so we got a $4,000 camera and you're using your iPhone? He goes, well, it looks better.
So how are you feeling? How are you doing since your big episode you had?
Typically, I wasn't really crazy about being in the hospital for 11 days or being on a ventilator for 3.5 days. That wasn't really much fun, but, I'm still there. So that's good.
Yeah.
I haven't been on a bike ride in almost 3 weeks, so that's not good.
But you'll get back
I'm
to
kind
it.
of missing that.
You'll get
I
back
think it'll
to
be
it.
another week and a half or so. But I didn't, I had to get my Porsche running. I don't like to leave it too long. It's a little, and flat six in there is a little temperamental if you let it sit too long.
Yeah, that one day I came by to visit and you surprised me, said, you want to go for a walk? I said, okay. So we got to walk down the hall and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, Rita woke up. She stayed there most nights. And she
Yeah.
woke up the one morning, like at 4:30, and she was asleep in the recliner. And I was standing up at the end of the recliner. And she goes, what are you doing? I go, I've been walking around for the last 45 minutes. I go, just walking around the room. I'm afraid if I go out in the hallway, they think I'm trying to escape.
Well, you
But,
had,
those experiences, when we come out of them, I feel fortunate. I'm 76, but my first 67 years, I never had anything wrong with it, other than 3 motorcycle accidents. But that I ever really bad tore up motorcycles. It was tore up helmets. And that probably 500 mountain bike crashes, with just scrapes and bruises and all that kind of stuff. But I think the last time I remember being sick was in 1969. I was racing dirt bikes, hill climbers, and I did one of those fast launches and hit a bank and went right in. It was terraced. I went right into the next one, bit a chunk out of my tongue, and threw it on the other side. And I was a service advisor then. I always remember these little old ladies came in there, probably younger than I am now, but I was trying to explain to them I couldn't talk. They go, what happened? What happened? I said, I'm writing it down. I bit my tongue. Why did you do that?
Because it tasted good.
So it was kind of a tough couple of weeks because just because you bit through your tongue from the recreational sport that you knew you don't get paid for not showing up. Or at least I didn't anyway. So I feel fortunate that the first 67 years, I really hadn't done anything wrong. I thought I was indestructible until I wasn't.
But you had some good nurses that took care of you there at University.
Oh man, it was great. Everybody came to visit me, and saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. With one of those ventilators, your mouth stretched open like that, you really don't look too good. And you don't look very healthy. That's why I took the picture. Like the day after I got off the ventilator, I looked fine. Except that stuff coming out of my neck.
Yeah.
Where they ran wires down towards my heart. So, a lot of that stuff. Not my favorite thing. The worst thing though was not being able to get up for 7 days at all. That was
out of the bed. They wouldn't let you out of bed.
Lewis, when you came up, that was the first day that I was allowed that they unhooked enough that I could get out of bed. So that really wasn't that much fun. Well, when you're old, you get stiff too. You're laying there, and then you're going, what's wrong with my leg? They're not working so good. I got home and I used the walker for about 2 hours, and then I was fine. Got loosened up a little bit. Really took me to pick me up some Sea Island. So that was the magic cure.
So how about that favorite nurse that brought you them eggs?
Yeah. And when we were talking about cultures and uncultured cultures. But I mean, uncultured cultures, it's kind of like the days when we grew up, this. And I can remember, because my dad was in the Army and there's 8 kids. So in the States, that wasn't a lot of money. He was a E6, so we had to find economical places to live, which meant usually that was way off the base out in the country, which is how I met your family.
Yeah.
I already met my sister, your wife. But when we lived in Europe, we lived on the Mediterranean. We're the only American family in Orleans. And I was 5 years old. And all I remember is that when you're 5 years old, we just ran around town. I mean, everywhere. Because it was Orleans is a little port city. So small fishing people would come in there with fishing boats, and from England and all over the place, that spoke English. And, so we'd hang around down there and Ronald would make fun because there was an old fisherman down there and he would always be cooking a pot of this stew. And it was looked like rice with little black things on it, which just happened to be little tiny baby eels. But it was really good. It tasted really good. And we'd just run around town. We'd get up early in the morning. My mom and dad would still be sleeping. We go down to, because, there's open markets there. And we go down and we brought a goat home. and we got them to give that to us, a little baby goat, because they were going to butcher. It was going to be sold to be, raised and butchered. And the one thing I always thought was, how did I know what they were saying? I didn't speak French. I was 5 years old. Went to a French Catholic school. That I didn't even know what they were doing. All I knew is they had blackboards and they were writing on them. So I would try and do whatever they were putting on those blackboards and just kind of, I don't know, just guess at what was going on. And my brother Leonard, a year younger than me, all he did is wait for a door to open and he'd tear out of that church because the school was in the church. And he'd tear out and run home. And those nuns would chase him home and they'd go right in. And my mom isn't wild, but they would just shove her out of the way. They go drag him, kicking and screaming back. Just like they call it, just do this, just do this. Leonard so stubborn to go. He'd just sit there, and if he heard a door creak, he was like, and he was gone. But you live different places, and the cultures are so different in Europe. But then, we were in Staten Island, New York, and I'd never really been in the South. Then we moved from Staten Island, New York, of high school that had triple sections in New York, Little Italy, to Seal, Alabama. There was thousands of kids at the school we went to, and Seal had like 500 kids, and they were from 15 miles around. Things were they were a lot different, when the way that it was. Here we are now, we adapt to it. Chuck, you were a military brat. You saw all those different cultures, which I think is really good because you kind of, you just get used to adapting. I liked it because, well, this time I'm not going to screw up like I did last time. I'm going to be much cooler this time. But thank goodness we kept moving. So,
But
we find out what to do.
But what I can remember and what I've been told, you were the cool dude there at Chivala High School. You were the
girls like it, but the guys do not. That's the way. That's the way. So, but that's okay. I was okay with that. With that coach, well, they didn't like me at all. I just moved from New York, and in New York back in the early '60s, like that, everybody dressed up for school. They wore like slacks, and it wasn't required. That's how you were cool. I had to dress like Bobby Vinton and with the little skinny ties or with little bow tie things and nice clothes. So that's kind of fun, but not when you do Seal, Alabama, and you only have two pair of clothes. Both of them are jeans.
Well, we dressed up and we put on a pair of shoes every now and then. And
we adapted pretty quick though, because it was such an unusual place that the Highway 12, I think that's the one that came out of Phoenix City.
No, 431 came out of Phoenix City.
Yeah, that's the one that went all the way up to Chicago, the one that used to be the main route to Florida. So consequently, there were some characters. Mr. Chambers, he was an old gangster from Chicago. Stories, tons of stories. And you couldn't. There wasn't like a bar out there, but his store was like a bar. It was a convenience store, but and on Sundays it was like it was Watermelon Sunday. We had beer, had everybody hanging out, and my dad liked drinking beer, and I had to rotate tires, do oil changes and stuff. And the only benefit to me was to get drunk, and then I get to drive home.
Well, Morgan Chambers, he had a little bar in there and a little gas station out front, and the two pumps and stuff like that. But he also had slot machines in the back room back here where they'd go back there and play those slot machines and stuff.
He had it going on. But then when we moved to Pittsview, because my dad found a cheaper place to live in Pittsview. So we moved to Pittsview, And across the street from us, well, and Pittsview was an abandoned town. It had been gin mill, I guess, that went under, I don't know when, and it was famous for a train. It was a train wreck out there with like 30,000 hogs on it. So it's why a big feral hogs, but they were big hogs, because they couldn't go out and get them because it's so far out in the sticks. But right across the street from us, there was a guy called Mr. Majors. And now this guy, he never came out of his yard. He'd come out to the yard, but never come out of the yard. Ever. So, as kids, we'd run over and talk to him. And then my dad would pick up stuff at the commissary, and he always wanted my dad to get him newspapers from Chicago. Because military bases and newspapers from everywhere because everybody's from somewhere else. Yeah. And so he wanted newspapers from Chicago. And a few years later, they never really did open up. But I got him, I just bugged the heck out of him. And I go, what's in that barn? It looks like there's a car in there. And he goes, that's none of your business. He wasn't like a real sociable guy, but he would kind of talk, just a little bit. But I don't know what he did, but he was still afraid that somebody was going to find him. So the one day, I go, that's a car. I looked in the barn, it's a car. And he goes, come on. So we go out to his barn and he opens the door and it's a 1929 Buick with the miles from Chicago to Pittsfield. He drove that far down there, put it in that barn, and then never went out. They just get people to pick up stuff for him if they're going to Panic City or someplace. His characters, it was unbelievable. I was working at a dairy farm, and Leonard was the guy that was the vet for the dairy farm. What was it? Ted Ballard. And he was actually a doctor, but he had lost his license years. He was a terrible alcoholic. And he lived at the dairy farm, took care of the cows and stuff, living in an old broken down RV, like from 1930 or something. But he owned the gas station in Pittsfield. And it was kind of like, Pittsfield had been a good size, had storefronts and everything. And it came down where kind of pyramid, and that's his gas station. So it had like 2 pumps, and he had a little store in there, but the only thing on the shelves were the stuff my dad picked them up at the commissary. Pork and beans and stuff. He just sold that. He'd only buy like $15 worth of gas, and the guy would come around selling, filling his tanks and stuff. Of course, gas was 10 cents a gallon. But it was so funny because Leonard ran that store. And Leonard was there in the summer every day. And oxtail stew. He'd get there and he would run the store all day. Of course, they had maybe 2 customers during the whole day. And Ted Ballard would get drunk by 10, take a nap, wake up about 2, get drunk by 3, take another nap, and then head out to the dairy farm after. But he had good stories. He had great stories, of when he, had been a practicing doctor. He wouldn't say where it was. He wouldn't say. But I asked him, I go, well, where were you a doctor? I mean, what city, what state? And he said, that's not important.
Yeah.
Lewis, your family, when I first met you guys barely had running water, which a lot of places didn't have.
Actually, when the first time when it first met us, we had a well. We had to draw water up out of the well in the backyard. Then shortly after that, that's when they moved up to the other place up on 431 and stuff like that.
I love your mom and dad.
Yeah.
But
But your
dad would track me out because every Saturday
Yeah.
He'd be on the front porch, smoking and drinking a little bit, and he'd have a plastic bag on his head because he dyed his hair jet black every weekend. And him
Earlier,
and Bernie sounded exactly the same. He
yeah,
sounded like Boomhauer on King of the Hill.
yeah, and Chuck was the first grandson, and he used to take him out over to the White Spot, get him some candy. He'd get a beer, and then Chuck would get some candy, and they'd drive back to the house. And
Yeah, and I think he worked at the mill in Columbus, or Phoenix City.
Columbus and Phoenix City both.
Yeah,
He was.
so those are good places. So
Yeah,
you didn't have to have a dirt floor when you came around, but there's just great stories from out there. The one time Gene and I went out, your Uncle Gene and your younger brother, and we were pretty good friends. Or, I guess he kind of let me hang out with him because he was 2 or 3 years older than me. So he was the cool guy in that area, the football star. When he was in high school there, just like the Fonzie, he was the cool guy.
Yeah, he
He
had
had
that
the hot
Elvis, he had that Elvis look about him with the hair that fall down in the front and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I would stay out there sometimes and we'd hunt squirrel. I never shot a squirrel though. I had a lot of squirrels, but I never shot a squirrel. I went bird hunting probably 10 or 12 times as an adult, but I never shot a bird. Somebody, because you'd have your license of how many birds you could have. Somebody would shoot them for me because then they'd have like doves, wicked doves. Doves are like little chicken leg, like your thumb. It coughed it.
Yeah.
It tastes pretty good, but I think it was not one of those things. But I do remember the one time we snuck in really late, and your mom would make us breakfast in the morning. She'd do it's like a fried cornbread. I don't know what you call that, but it's really good. I really like it, and I hardly ever, see it, anymore. But Archie would do, pancakes and sorghum, and your dad got him. He had been sleeping late, where they're in there eating breakfast. And he goes, "I'm going to find the dead rat." He goes, "There's got to be one around here somewhere. He ate that damn whole bag of Cheetos." I go, "I ate that bag of Cheetos." I was worried I was going to die for about 5 hours, but I didn't. So, fond memories.
Yeah.
But the cultures, and when you live in all those different places, like you guys in Japan, and you're shuttle in the service, you go over and you see how people live so differently than we do, and how the times have changed so much. From Chucky and even you now. What it was like when you were 15 years old. It was a heck of a lot different than it is now. If you were 15 years old.
Oh,
We had to learn things. This is a real streetwise way. It's easy to get your butt kicked, and go into the wrong places, and then find out what would happen to you. Kids now, they see everything on the internet. There's nothing that they won't know about.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Of course, I learned a lot on the internet myself. So new today. Thank God, because thank God for AI.
You're talking about the cultures and change and in military practice and stuff. You see things in different places. Yeah, the other day we were talking about your Filipino friend barbecue in Houston.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what was that about?
Which one?
When you Filipino
barbecues.
in Houston, when you got invited to a barbecue from
that was it. Yeah, it was a culture from a friend of mine that's a partner in my one company. He had a friend, he's always looking for the get rich scheme quick also. And he had met this a woman that had just moved from Louisiana, and she's from the Philippines. And she had come over from the Philippines, with one of her, and lived with, I guess, somebody in her family in Louisiana, but she had no money and was waiting tables. And she had a son that was like 11 years old then. I said, he adapted quick. And he wanted like all of the fancy jackets and tennis shoes and stuff. She goes, I couldn't buy those things. So I would look and try and find some bargains. And then I stumbled across like on the internet where you could buy like lots of things, like a pallet of stuff. So I bought, some really nice jackets, North Star, or the kind that anyway he was looking for, Timberline or whatever it was. So she goes, I bought like 30 of them because it was really cheap. And I knew I could sell them because I guess it was her sister sold stuff at a flea market. So she took those out there and she sold them all over 2 weekends. And she goes, he put back with his wooden tables. And so she would start buying pallets and stuff. And within 6 months, she opened a store for all her overflow that she had. And then she was selling stuff through Amazon. She would buy the stuff, list it on Amazon and sell it. It was doing really good. So Kurt, that partner of mine, he decided he's going to do that too. So he went in on sharing part of the rent on the warehouse that she had gotten for her stuff in Houston. So she did really good. She had two pretty new Lexus, a SUV, and the big sedan, and she bought a house right in a real nice area of Houston. And so they were going to have a house blessing, for that's what they do. And so Kurt goes, hey, she wants you to go too, because I'd go down there and help them at the warehouse after we'd go out and eat sometime when I was working over there. And so I went down there and stuff because I like that kind of stuff. And so to get there, there's like probably 50 people from the Philippines. And probably not even half of them spoke English. But they all brought like food, all this different food. And then there was this priest that showed up, and he was blessing the house and everybody that was in it. He goes through the whole house, the ceremony, and sprinkling water all over the place. I think I got blessed about 3 times. But one of the people there roasted a giant hog. I mean, that thing was huge. And it looked like it was lacquer. It was like a dark brown lacquer. And it was the skin was like crispy. So when he was carving it, he would cut through that skin, and then he cut across and have like just the way that they ate that skin, with a little layer of fat underneath it in the skin. But everything was fantastic. And that it was so different. And half of the people didn't even know each other. Some of them worked for her at that warehouse, and they brought their friends. And I didn't speak Philippine, but people were telling me what I was eating, but I'm not sure what it was. But most of it was pretty good. So those different experiences with different cultures, I actually love that. Going and experiencing those different things. So, because a lot of them are very different than stuff that we do. And since I like just about any kind of food, we thought, that might be related to some of my health issues. So because I couldn't believe you had a heart attack. You ride like 50, 60, 80 miles a week off from bicycles. And I go, well, I had a ribeye stuck in the main artery on this side, and had New York strip on this side. I go, so I think down is with the bicycle riding did save my life, because as those things got clogged, my cardiologist showed me all of the arteries that my body manufactured to supply blood to my heart as it was getting restricted. And it wasn't, when I was still racing bikes. If you're 180, 190, 210 in the summer, maximum heart rate, so I didn't think anything could possibly be wrong with it. And so it was a diet, though, that it took me down. So you're trying to eat a little bit better now.
So red meat really isn't all that good for you.
No, true. Now I do make exceptions, because sometimes I would have to go out with 5 rollers. So if the steak was over $150, I was having one. The wine was over $300 a bottle. I was going to drink about this much of it. Just so, because it was $300 a bottle. Honestly, how good could it be? I know some of them were pretty good. You could actually tell a big difference. But it all depends too what you like, because I like the more of Chardonnay, or Burgundy, where it's not real super sweet.
You need to get some of that to rub off on your nephew there, because he's got bottles of whiskey like in every room. He's got in the living room. He's got in the dining room. He's got in the bedroom.
I do not have bourbon in the bedroom.
I'm not sure about that. How many bottles you showed me yesterday?
I don't know.
Have you got the little wine?
No, but I do have a lot of bourbon throughout the house.
He had to buy
Shelving unit. Yeah.
Shelving unit to put that stuff on. And it had
I told him, wait, I did all my drinking when I was in the service. So when I got out, I really didn't drink anymore.
Or any less.
No, a lot less.
But Brendan was telling me yesterday he went from guns to guitars to bourbon. You name it, that boy's got it. How many guitars you got?
Behind me, I've got 3 guitars, 2 basses, and an acoustic.
Well, where I was on that podcast, the other one, there's 5 guitars hanging on the wall. There's a Baby Taylor, a Taylor, the Dove, which is one that's made by Martin, and some other one that's Ritas.
Those
I
are
haven't
nice
played
guitars.
any of them in 25 years. I probably should have.
Probably, yeah.
Well, actually, my granddaughter, Braylon, just ordered, she did some watering of people's yards while they were out of town for a couple of weeks. So she ordered a guitar from Amazon. So she was over here last weekend. And so I go, I got guitars. And she goes, you do? So they were looking at it. And I was going to play one of them. Those strings are so dead. Those guitars, because the strings have been on there for 25 years. Well, I think that all the guitars are 25 years old, because I think the last one I bought was 10 or 12 years ago when I was going to start playing again. And then actually start playing again. Maybe I will, though. Yeah, I'm going to send my retire now.
But that boy's he's got one. But I'm going to tell you that whiskey collection he's got, that is amazing. We went to Alabama last year to a football game. You know where the first stop was?
No.
A whiskey store to see what kind of bourbon they had that he didn't have.
We did stop at a liquor store, and I came out with a bottle of Buffalo Trace, which was impossible to get at that time in San Antonio.
All right. It was worthwhile.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just a fluke, but I mean, I couldn't find anything good, like Elmer T. Lee or E.H. Taylor or any of that good stuff, or even a bottle of Pappy for that matter. You got to have thousands of dollars to
buy. You could have gone a little further south and got some moonshine. Went out to my Seal.
Shoot, you probably wouldn't have to go that far to buy moonshine even in that town.
I don't know. That's probably true. Seal's actually a registered ghost town now. Yeah. You took pictures of that house that we lived in, for a while. The big old white house on top of the hill from the swamp. And what was it? Dean's Steakatorium.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the hill, remember? That's the guy had a pit that he made stuff out of snake skins, but he also had probably 100 rattlesnakes and water moccasins. And tourists would come in, and you could go in and look at the snakes down in the pit. And then if you paid him enough, he would go down in the pit and walk around and come out the other side.
And
He eventually, I heard, actually got killed by snakes. But you know, the things that you do, I always work doing something. So I was working for a pulpwooder down there because that's pulpwood is the business, out in that area. And it was a guy who had one truck, and it was just a one-man show. So I got paid 50 cents an hour, and we would go get the pulpwood that nobody wanted, which means on the ravines down by the swamp, nobody wanted to go get that kind because there's too many snakes and stuff. And the hills are, they're curved, so they're coming straight down like this. And he would cut the trees, and I had to trim them. Well, I don't know if you know, but water moccasins are very proprietary of their area. And they do not like you cutting their trees down or trimming limbs off of them. And water moccasins are very aggressive. They don't just strike you once. They'll keep striking you, until you chop their heads off. So when the first day that I went to work with him, he was going to furnish you lunch and stuff. So there was a can of potted meat and a sleeve of saltine crackers and some big, thick rubber waders. It is summertime. I go, I can't wear those things. He goes, no, you're going to want to wear those. I go, it's going to be really hot because most of the time you're running around with jeans on, jeans and tennis shoes, no shirt, because it's so hot and humid. And so he goes, there's going to be a lot of water moccasins down there. So my job, I had a hatchet that thing was sharp because you just, trim all the limbs off and then we'd drag them up with the chain up to the truck. But the first day that I was out there, I got struck at by about 6 or 7 water moccasins. And that's very scary because you're trying to trim and then you get a bam, you go crap, and instead ready to strike at you again. So I just chopped their heads off. Well, then I went over to Dean's Snakeatorium after that first day. I go, Dean, man, I got struck at by like 5 water moccasins today. He goes, did you catch them? I go, no, I chopped their heads off. And he goes, well, if they're over like 3.5, 4 feet, I'll give you $1 for each one. Well, I was only getting 50 cents an hour. And then he goes, well, you get me a live one, I'll give you 50 cents more. I go, well, you're not getting any live ones. So they give you some burlap sacks. I put those snakes in, and I would get anywhere from 3 to, I think it was like 7 or 8 one time, water moccasins. And that quit because I got hit by a water moccasin, and I looked, and he was hung up on my waders. His mouth was like open like this, and it was hung up on my waders. And I'm like, okay, what do? You got this sharp hatchet, but, so you can't chop his head off because you chop your leg off too. And finally, that thing was like whipping around, and I was envisioning those fangs going deeper and deeper into those waders. So finally, I just chopped sideways and chopped the top part of his mouth off and took it back to him. It did it out.
That
So the
old
thing
house,
you do for money.
that old house you guys lived in is still there. And that house, if I'm not mistaken, is about 150 years old.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Somebody had fixed it up pretty good. Yeah. When we lived there, the whole back of the house was really almost falling down. Like all the glasses out of the windows. But it was a big old house, so we just used, the rooms up towards the front. And I always remember it because me and Gene and Leonard, the style was put bleach on your hair on the front like the Beach Boys. It would bleach your hair if you laid in the sun. So we did that. And we were laying in the video with the head sticking out the window. Leonard's looking at us, he goes, our hair's not changing. And Gene and I didn't do it. We just put water on our heads. So Leonard, by the time he realized what was going on, he had his hair, top of his head was bright orange. So my dad comes home and he goes, "What the hell? What did you do?" And he goes, "They did it too. We put stuff on." We're all like, "What? What did you do that?" I never did that. We didn't do it.
Yeah, those were some good old times back there. Right?
Well, they're good times, and it's times like today it is so different. Like first of all, I wouldn't work for 50 cents an hour. And I want to take a job where I had to fend off water moccasins, as part of my job.
Yeah, I was looking at an article earlier today about gasoline prices. In 1960, gas was 29 cents a gallon. That's amazing.
Well, you were always cool because you had nice cars. I remember we came down when you first met Ronnie. You had that. I think it was a Chevy Impala 2-door.
Did I?
A 60.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a 1960 white.
yeah. And then
Because you had nice cars, always. That Oldsmobile Starfire.
that
was like
that convertible we had. That was a fun car. Till your your sister tried to go to Phoenix City, was going to call your sister Bertie and telephone there, and she drove into the side, into the door, into the telephone. Scratched.
That was when she still grown.
She came like, "Oh, I don't know how that happened." Well, we got too close to the phone.
I went up, it was my first one. And we went up to visit you guys in Montgomery and had a great time because, you guys had a nice house and everything, and I was pretty close to living out of my car. We were in between getting ready because after that part out of the Navy, and we were getting ready to go to Michigan to get my partners with my dad's brothers that he was partners with in a glass shop. They did plate glass and car glass. And so he gave me as part of the partnership. So when I got there, you're a kid, you take off, I got from Memphis, it blew up the engine in my 55 Chevy, and I had almost enough money for gas to get to Detroit. And I blew it up on the road, go, okay, I had no car. I have a pregnant wife, and I go, well, what are you going to do? So, I told Sue, I go, okay, just stay in the car. I'm going to go get a car. And she goes, you don't have any money. I go, well, we got to have a car. Otherwise, we're going to have to set up a homestead on the side of the road. And so I went to a couple of different places to see if somebody had some old car sitting around that maybe, because I did mechanical work, that I could get running. And this one guy, he goes, hey, go over and see these guys. They got drag cars and stuff. They build cars. So I went over there and they went and told my 55 Chevy that. And said they would trade it or something. And the only thing they would trade for was a 1950 Oldsmobile. That was a drag car. Those had coil springs on them. But they had airlift on, and the springs, it had a whole like 16 by 20 with a shifter in the floor. It had no exhaust on it, just headers. And it ran good though. It had a big old Olds 442 in it. So I traded it for my 55 Chevy because those were real popular even then, the 2-door arm pots. So I traded it for that. I went out in the back behind the shop, found a couple mufflers and some tailpipes, threw them in the trunk. So if I got stopped, I could tell them that when my exhaust fell off. And we used to go up there. And when we got to Detroit, it was the biggest snowstorm they had. And I forget how many years. And, I'm not a winter person. I went to Detroit because all I remember was beautiful summers. We'd met my Uncle Kenny's out on the lake. And it would be just beautiful. With the canal. And he had like 50 acres or something. And had, just all kind of goats and stuff. So there'd be like 15 of us that go out there. We'd just swim and play. And the canal came from Marine City. So boats would come down there, people with nice boats going out to the Great Lake. I guess it was Lake St. Clair. And so we'd hang out and they'd come by every day, so we'd wave at them. And the one time there's an older couple that came by, we go, "Kids out in their boat," And so after about the third time, they said, "Well, you get your parents to say it's okay." So when they came back, they said it was okay. We hadn't seen our parents in 4 days, because they left us out there. And so they took us, they had, coolers, soft drinks and, fishing poles to fish, and took us out all day. They took us out 4 or 5 times during that summer. So that's my memories. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. We walked all over the place, and it was green, and it's not like that in the winter. The sun goes away in November and does not go. The earliest that it might come back is the middle of March. And when it does, people go crazy. The sun will come out, it'll be 35 degrees, and people are at the park. It was 35 degrees. I'm standing in the snow up to my knees, cleaning my car because the sun was shining.
Yeah.
So that was, but the funny thing was when I got there, the glass company had gone bankrupt 8 years. I don't know why my dad didn't know that, but that was my dad. That's just what he was.
Yeah.
So he remembered he had a partnership in there, and that's, and he's passed it along to his son. Unfortunately, I'm sure they told him they were bankrupt 8 years earlier. Well, he must have forgotten about it. So we worked at a stamping plant with my Uncle Bill. Because that's everybody is family members into the big three at that time. And so he worked for Chrysler's and got me in there. And I realized I can't be a factory worker for 30 years. I just can't do it. So we went on strike. But it did pay for Bobby being born, my oldest son, because as soon as you started, you had insurance. The way the benefits were back then. The day you started, you had full coverage insurance. So I stayed and we went on strike. Bobby was already born then. So I can't go back. I can't go back to doing that. So I got a job at a little gas station. It was a marathon in between 2 little towns, between Mount Clemens and I forget what the other town was, but there was nothing but farm country in there. But the guy was a district manager for Marathon, so that was going to be his retirement. But he figured he knew it was going to build up in that area, and so he was able to get that new station when it opened. So I just took care of farmers' trucks and tractors, and I didn't care that I opened at 6 in the morning and closed at 9 or 10 o'clock at night because it wasn't a factory. And my uncle was so high, then farmers' wives would bring me stuff to eat, because they felt sorry for me because I was there all the time. And, my job was to run the snowplow also, which, snowplows are pretty good. But it would be nice if they would hook to like a truck or something instead of a snowplow, a snow shovel that's like 3.5 feet across, because the snow is not like Colorado or Utah. That snow is heavy. People let it fall into the back of the trucks, so it weights it down for traction. But you fell bad up with snow in Michigan, and the bed of that truck's going to drop about 5 or 6 inches. That's how heavy that stuff is. So at least you get good traction.
Uncle Bill was one of my favorite. Last time that we saw him, we were in Warner Robins, Georgia. You may not remember, Chuck, but him and Aunt Violet, and I forgot now which of his daughters was with him. They were on their way to Florida to Disney World. They stopped by to see us, spent a day or two with us there in Warner Robins, Georgia. And Uncle Bill, he was such a nice guy.
Memories. Last time I was in Phoenix City, Alabama, I went to Columbus for a meeting. I was running some source for, it's supposed to be a big car dealer that went out of business there with a cricket out of Columbus.
Your herd?
Or yeah, I forget what that. Had 13 stores. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'd have a big meeting down there, and so when for a while I worked at Howard, his brother's body shop, as he
Okay.
worked in sanding cars and stuff and running errands and stuff. But we used to go pick up stuff from Chicken Combers Barbecue.
Yeah.
Which was that barbecue chicken was so good. And you go there, you go in, there's not tables. It's a dirt floor. There's a counter. And you go in and you order your chicken. And in the center of it is a pot that's got to be 100-gallon cast iron pot with barbecue sauce in it. And he's got grills going out there with his barbecue chicken. And the roof has looks like somebody chopped a hole with an axe in the center of the roof for the smoke and everything to go out. So you get your chicken and you get 4 pieces of bread. It's about a plate on top of it. So when I picked that up pretty regular, so I went over, and that place was pretty much the same. It was somebody else owned it then, but it was still called Chicken Colors.
And I've just looked it up on the internet. It's still there. That was the place to go. I didn't like chicken, but Mom and Dad every now and then they'd get something, had a little extra money. Chicken Combers there in Phoenix City, on 14th Street. That was pretty much the main street there in Phoenix City. That's where you used to go to Miss Scott's to get hot dogs. You used to call them chili dogs. Had a half of a weenie on a bun, put some chili on it and coleslaw.
I smell like those.
14th Street Grill.
14th Street Grill and the other one, yeah. I think 14th Street Grill is still there too. I'm not sure. I know Chicken Combers there. I'm going to check it.
Well, do you remember Mr. Dykes, Howard's
Yes.
dad? So this is a guy he's like out of some TV comedy show. He has, how many businesses did he have? He had real estate, he sold property. He had a garage where he worked on cars right in the center of Seal.
Yeah.
And we rented a house from when we went there. And so we didn't have water and stuff. And when there was an artesian well down the road, which had plenty of water, but we had to have water. So he was a well.
14th Street Grill. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah. One of these days I'll go through there again, hopefully, and visit some of the places. But anyway, he dug wells too, but his crew wasn't that good. It was me and Howard. And, he told us what to do. We'd go cut down trees, that were like 4 or 5 inches in diameter and about 30 feet long. And then you tie them together and then make like a teepee. And you got a rope that's going through the top. And you got a post hole digger that screws into a pipe. And so what you do is you drop that in, screw it with a big pipe wrench, pull it up, dump the dirt out. And in that area, you usually hit water about 35, 40 feet. And he would come by and he would go, bring me up some dirt. And so he'd bring it up and he'd be, another 5 feet. But on that shop, I felt, you're a kid, so you do whatever, he told us to do. But he actually had a total note fire lot. And all the old pulpwooders that lived in that area, he sold cars to. So he had about 5 or 6 old cars. And so they were just beaters. And so Howard and our job were to keep those running. So he'd sell one. Then he'd go, I don't want that car running any more than 2 weeks. Better not last more than 2 weeks. Because they'd get the payment. There'd 4 or 5 of the families put their money together and they'd pay that first payment, and then they weren't going to pay anything. So then we'd have to go repossess the car. So we'd bring it back in, but we didn't spend any money on it. We didn't have to take belts and cut bearings for the crankshaft because all the rods knocking and stuff in them and make bearings out of leather. But if you were a tourist coming through there, this shop was real close to what was the cafe there?
The Silver Run.
Right under the bridge. Have to go under the bridge.
Yeah.
The Wells lived in their big house across the street.
That's where Ron and I first met. I don't remember the name of it now, but the restaurant was owned by
that car
Mr.
trouble,
Diggs.
and then go then bring the car there and go over and get something to eat and stuff, and we'd fix it. And make us just patch those things up, like if it was because generators went out a lot. Brushes wore out on them and stuff. So we'd have to tear it apart, take brushes out of some old generators that were back there, and put them in it, paint them up, put it on the car, and then you would just poke their eyes out. And his famous saying was, "Damn Yankees, they never learn." I don't think this is really this is worth the stuff that I didn't make sense to. And he goes, well, he does pay us. I go, yeah, like $5 a week or something.
Yeah. Seal Snack Bar. That was the name of that restaurant. Seal Snack Bar.
But, and now we're all connected and we're all living in Texas.
Yep. Hey, we just hit an hour, people.
Wow. That sounds here plenty.
Well, how many downloads have we had since last time Uncle Bobby was on? Okay.
We're at a little over 3,800 now. In the last 30 days, 180 downloads.
That's pretty good.
All right.
We're getting.
What would you call this one?
I don't know what we're going to call this one.
We'll leave that to you, Chuck, because it's kind of cultures of uncultured people.
I like that. Cultures of uncultured people.
There you go.
And the thing's how you adapt. You adapt. Didn't you? Wherever you went, you adapted, didn't you? Now, Robin didn't adapt very well.
Yeah, that's what you did. Like when with your dad down at Seal, you used to barbecue and stuff like that. And then you guys were down at Fort Rucker. We lived out on a farm out there. Used to.
You know what? I miss that place because I was go exploring up in that old barn, and a doctor used to own that. And in the barn were ledgers of all of his payments and stuff. People and 2 chickens, a goat, what he got paid for on the different stuff that he took care of. But my biggest memory of that place is not a good one. My dad had chickens because he liked to be like a farmer, so he had chickens, and the chickens were making a bunch of racket and stuff. So we go running out there, and the chickens were going crazy. Well, there's no lights out there or anything, so he's got a flashlight. He's got his 22, and a flashlight, and he goes, "There's something in the pen, getting out of the pen." So I had to get in the pen, and I didn't know what it was, but something was in there. And so all of a sudden the flashlight's flashing, and it's a possum. And that possums don't always play dead. They got fangs like 2 inches long. And so I'm going, holy crap. The thing's like 4 feet high with cage on top. This possum's coming after me. My dad's going to shoot it. He's got a flashlight. He's drunk. I'm going, I'm going to die today. I finally, because I had like a chunk of wood or something that I went in there with, because I thought, I didn't know what it was, but he said, get in there, get it, whatever it is. So finally, I got that possum to play dead. Actually, he was dead. But that's why I never hear that. Chuck, we'll let you name it.
Cultures of uncultured people
Around the world.
Sounds good. Next time I have you, I'm going to show you a couple pictures from that area down there. But anyway.
Well, it's always, unfortunately, I do a lot of the talking, but sorry.
Well, that's better than hearing my gravelly old voice. All right.
All right.
You guys.
Y'all take care, everybody. See y'all around.
All right, later.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.